Ripple is setting its sights on becoming the backbone of global crypto infrastructure and is making bold moves to get there. Just take a look at this Bloomberg headline. Ripple offered up to $5 billion, 0 cents, to acquire Circle, the company behind USDC, the world's second largest stablecoin. Yes, $5 billion, 0 cents. Let that sink in. Now let's break this down. Why does this matter to you as an XRP holder? What could this mean for XRP, the XRP ledger, and Ripple's long-term strategy? And perhaps the bigger question, how do stablecoin issuers even make money? After all, if a stablecoin is always worth $1, where's the profit? Don't worry, we'll dig into that too. Ripple's approach here is undeniably strategic, and while Circle didn't jump at the initial offer, this might just be the beginning of a larger play. Whether or not a deal happens, Ripple's ambition to reshape the crypto world is crystal clear, and it's worth keeping an eye on. High-stakes acquisitions and mergers like this one often come with layers of complexity, making it hard to predict exactly how things will play out. But before we dive deeper, let me put this out there. I'm not a financial expert. This isn't financial advice, and you definitely shouldn't make any buying or selling decisions based on what I say are right. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves creating YouTube content about all things crypto, purely as a hobby and for fun. With that said, let's get into it. When it comes to Ripple, one thing you need to remember is that every decision they make ties back to XRP. Why? Because Ripple is the largest holder of XRP on the planet, and it's at the very heart of their business model. Every move they make has XRP in mind. It's always a major factor in their strategy. In this case, it can be huge for XRP. I'll explain why in just a second, but know this, Ripple's decisions are never random. They're calculated with XRP's success in mind. Now, before we go further, let's take a quick look at some of the latest headlines making waves. Let me break this down for you because it's important to grasp just how significant this really is. First, let's flash back to a headline from Reuters dated May 18th, 2023. Nearly 2 years ago, Ripple acquires crypto custody provider Medico for $250 million, 0 cents. That marked Ripple's biggest acquisition at the time. Back then, I flagged it saying, look, this feels like a major transformation. And here we are. It's clear now, Ripple was evolving beyond just a fintech company. If you'd asked Brad Garlinghouse back then, what's Ripple all about? The answer would have been straightforward. Payments, foreign exchange, solving the headache of international money transfers. Remember his famous analogy from 201-72018? He used to say, it's faster to fly $10 million, 0 cents, or even $10,000, 0 cents in cash on a plane to another country than to use the outdated legacy financial system. That visual stuck, didn't it? But now with Medico under their belt, Ripple's ambitions are clearly soaring far beyond just cross-border payments. Ripple's pitch has evolved. Ask any Ripple executive today, what does Ripple do? And you'll hear something along the lines of, Ripple provides global enterprises with the infrastructure they need for all things crypto. It's a bold, clear message that speaks to their mission. Of course, XRP remains a cornerstone of Ripple's vision, an essential part of the crypto ecosystem they're shaping. So when Ripple made that $250 million 0 cents acquisition, it wasn't just a big move, it was a strategic one. Take Medico, for example, a firm specializing in enterprise-level services. They don't cater to end users directly. Instead, they empower businesses like banks and other firms to serve their own customers. That's their niche in the supply chain, and it's massive. This move signaled something loud and clear. Ripple is diversifying, and they're not stopping. They're doubling down on their commitment to redefine the future of crypto infrastructure on a global scale. So it all ties back to the critical role XRP plays for Ripple. Let's rewind to April 4th last year. Circle CEO publicly praised Ripple for taking the bold step of launching their own stablecoin on XRP. At the time, it wasn't groundbreaking news, but we learned Ripple had plans in motion. Fast forward to December 2024, and they finally made it happen. Ripple's stablecoin is just a few months old, but already making waves. Sure, it's not the biggest player in the stablecoin game yet, but its debut has been impressive. We'll dive deeper into that in a bit. What makes this move so significant? Looking back, it feels inevitable, especially after the fallout from the SEC v. Ripple case. Judge Torres' ruling essentially put XRP off limits as a bridge currency for any payment corridors involving the US, or at least made it far too risky to use. So Ripple had to adapt, and launching their own stablecoin was a smart, calculated move. There might be technical workarounds for certain issues, but they often slow everything down. especially when paperwork or filings are involved. It just complicate things. Ripple found themselves in such a situation and started using Tether instead of XRP for corridors involving the United States. At the time, I remember thinking, what's next? Will Ripple solve this or launch their own stablecoin? Or wouldn't you know it, Ripple decided to go the stablecoin route. From a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense. Why rely on Tether when they can create a solution tailored to their needs? Plus, it brings a lot of activity to the XRP ledger. Not all of it, of course. The XRP, RLUSD, and other assets are on Ethereum too, but a significant portion now lives on the XRP ledger. Smart move, Ripple. Every single transaction relies on XRP itself. That's huge, right? Circle's CEO recently gave Ripple a nod for launching their own stablecoin. Nice gesture, sure. But let's be honest, they've probably been thinking, oh, great, here comes the powerhouse Ripple stepping into our territory. No way they were thrilled. They're just playing it cool, being professional. Then, just a week ago, this happened. And I've mentioned it in recent videos. Circle clapped back hard. Check out this headline. Ripple faces major challenger as Circle enters payments arena. Turns out, Circle decided if Ripple's diving into our world of stablecoins, why not jump into theirs? Now they're going head-to-head in remittances, directly challenging Ripple's foreign exchange transactions, which, funnily enough, runs on XRP as its core bridge currency. The rivalry just got a whole lot spicier. They decided to step up their game with Circle and USDC. But let's be real, there's never going to be one coin to rule them all. Competition, bring it on. It's all part of the game, and honestly, it keeps things interesting. Now, here's where things get spicy. Back on April 1st this year, something big happened. Stablecoin heavyweight Circle announced plans to go public after scoring a $1.7 billion 0-cent stablecoin reserve windfall. Oh, and Circle is the same company Ripple tried to buy. Yep, you heard that right. So what's the deal here? Ripple reportedly made a bold move, offering $4 billion 0 cents to $5 billion 0 cents to acquire Circle Internet Group, the stablecoin giant. But the bid was rejected for being too low, according to insiders. Ripple has its eye on Circle, but hasn't decided if it will make another move, according to sources who spoke anonymously since the matter isn't public. Meanwhile, Circle is focusing on its recently filed IPO, aiming to go public in the near future. We do not comment on market rumors, a Circle spokesperson stated via email. As we are currently in a quiet period with the SEC, we cannot discuss our financial plans further. Our long-term goals remain unchanged. Clearly, Ripple's initial offer wasn't a throwaway bid, but it also didn't blow Circle out of the water. In fact, the proposed amount seems to have aligned with the market's valuation of $4.00 to $5 billion. 0 cents. It's apparent Ripple was testing the waters, playing it safe with a bid that matched expectations rather than exceeding them. The question now is, will Ripple make a splash with a sweeter deal or let this opportunity drift away? You don't want to offend them with a lowball offer, but you're not about to go all in right from the start either. Who knows? Maybe Ripple is willing to spend far more than anyone expects. And let's be real, for a major acquisition like this, I can't help but wonder if it actually happens. Does this mean we'd finally see USDC on the XRP ledger? Because right now it's not there. It's on several chains, including Stellar, but XRP ledger? Nope. So what would that shift mean? Total value locked, TVL, is a huge metric for measuring a coin's success, and locking all that value onto the XRP ledger would be a massive win. It could bring significant benefits that are hard to ignore. But still, I'm left wondering if that's part of the bigger picture, the long-term strategy Ripple might be aiming for. After all, Ripple could easily use it as a bridge currency whenever and wherever it fits. The potential here is huge, and it's hard not to get excited imagining what could come next. You have to wonder, Ripple launched RLUSD not even 6 months ago, so would they really feel the need to keep it if they acquired Circle? I mean, think about it. Once they own Circle, they'd have every reason in the world to back USDC. It's a no-brainer, right? That raises an interesting dilemma. Now you've got two coins essentially competing with each other. What usually happens in situations like this? Simple, rebranding. If one brand is more recognized or dominant, the other typically gets absorbed or phased out. It's like when companies merge, you go with the name that carries more weight and ditch the lesser known one for consistency. Why would you keep two brands competing under the same roof? It just doesn't make sense. Of course, maybe there's some unique logic to keeping both that we're not seeing yet, but off the top of my head, merging them seems like the obvious play. I've been sitting here thinking, do we really need RLUSD anymore now that we have USDC? I mean, USDC already has the brand recognition, the trust, the this and that of being a staple in the crypto world. Why not just bring USDC to the XRP ledger instead? Does RLUSD still serve a purpose? Maybe I'm overthinking this, or maybe you guys can enlighten me, but I'm struggling to see how it adds up. Here's the thing. Ripple seems to be aiming to do all things crypto. It makes sense they'd want to spread their wings, not just custody services, but also getting into the stablecoin market. It's a logical move. On top of the obvious new revenue stream, stablecoins could play a massive role as a bridge currency. So yeah, plenty of reasons for Ripple to jump into this space, but does it have to be RLUS? It just makes me wonder. And then there's the whole Circle dynamic. Are they actually worth more than Ripple's initial offer? How high could this go? According to a Cointelegraph article, the last time we had an update on Ripple's valuation, it was sitting at $11 billion, 0 cents. But as of January, Brad Garlinghouse indicated that figure is outdated, so Ripple's probably worth even more now. And that's without factoring in the value of their XRP holdings, which, let's be real, you can't take at face value. If Ripple ever started dumping XRP, the price would nosedive, wiping out any paper gains. So yeah, the market knows not to count XRP holdings as part of Ripple's net worth. Still, big stuff is happening here, no question. And RLUSD, well, it's gaining traction, whether or not it's the long-term play. All right, everyone, take a moment to check this out. We're talking about a coin that didn't even exist until December, less than 6 months ago, and now it's ranked 217 in market cap. Let that sink in. It went from not existing to breaking into the top 250. Clearly, it's gaining traction right out of the gate. And with Ripple being the powerhouse they are, I believe they'll keep pushing forward, even if they don't end up acquiring Circle. Sure, that acquisition might not happen. It's not guaranteed, and it may never come to pass. But Ripple's position in this market is solid regardless. That said, an acquisition would make the path ahead much smoother. Imagine the additional value locked onto the XRP ledger. If that were to happen, the moment it's tokenized on the ledger, requiring XRP itself, of course, the flows would be incredible. The scale of it would be massive, game-changing even. Ripple has the resources and the vision to pull off something this big if the deal is right for everyone involved. It's not a certainty, though, and I'm not here to predict the future, but it's entirely possible a better offer could bring Circle to the table, and who knows, they just might say yes. Tech YouTuber Paul Barron, boasting 160,000 followers, recently shared an intriguing take. If this happens, XRP could flip Ethereum the very next day. While that's a bold prediction, and I'm not making any guarantees here, it's hard to deny the potential upside for XRP. Market participants are likely to grasp the far-reaching implications for its long-term success. It's a no-brainer. This move would solidify XRP's position in the ecosystem. The XRP ledger, which relies on XRP, would only grow stronger. Bottom line, XRP isn't going anywhere, and it's becoming more obvious by the day. Meanwhile, Dom, co-founder of ESA and a builder on the XRP ledger, shared another fascinating idea. He suggested that at a $5 billion 0 cents valuation, Circle could be an ideal acquisition target for Ripple. Such a move would position Ripple as the owner of the world's second largest stablecoin issuer, gaining control over one of the fastest growing sectors in crypto. Absolutely, it's spot on. So you might be asking yourself, how does this actually work? Let's break it down and dive into the details. How is Ripple making this profitable if they own Circle? And what's the bigger picture here? Well, Dom shed some light on this in a post from April 2nd, shortly after the news of Circle's IPO hit earlier that month. He explained it well, and once I walk you through it, you'll see why this move could be so enticing for Ripple. But it's not just about profitability, it's about ensuring the long-term value of XRP and the XRP ledger. That's always in the mix with Ripple's decisions, especially with major moves like this one. So let's get into what Dom had to say. It's all connected, and it gives us a clearer view of Ripple's strategy. I've worked at Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, graduated from Wharton, and analyzed hundreds of IPOs. Trust me when I say this, the Circle IPO is one of the biggest milestones in crypto history. Let's break down their S1 filing and what it means for you. First off, how does Circle make money? You might think it's a stable coin. It's always $1, 0 cents, right? True, but here's the clever part. Every time you buy one USDC from Circle, they invest your dollars into treasuries. Those treasuries pay Circle interest, and Circle keeps it. Sounds simple, but it's wildly profitable. In 2024 alone, Circle raked in $1,618,000,000, 0 cents just from interest. That's where things get interesting. Circle's entire business model is tied to interest rates. Their S1 revealed this: a mere 1% drop in rates could slash their income by $441 million, 0 cents. Why? Because 99% of their revenue comes from reserve interest. It's like a house of cards balanced on rates. Number 3, Circle's financials don't stack up against industry leaders, but how big is the gap? Let's compare it to Coinbase, one of the few publicly traded crypto companies. In 2024, Coinbase raked in $6,300,000,000, 0 cents in revenue, and $2,600,000,000, 0 cents in net income, a staggering 41% profit margin. Circle, on the other hand, brought in $1,700,000,000, 0 cents in revenue, and $1.55 million, 0 cents in net income, with a slim 9% profit margin. That's nearly 5 times less. And with the Fed likely to lower rates later this year, Circle's numbers could take an even bigger hit. Here's where it gets interesting. Half of Circle's reserve income flows straight to Coinbase. That's number 4. In 2024 alone, Circle handed Coinbase a jaw-dropping $908 million, 0 cents. The kicker? As Circle gains traction, Coinbase gets an even bigger piece of the pie. If you're thinking about investing in Circle, you might want to give Coinbase a serious look too. Oh, and by the way, Coinbase is a minority owner in Circle. The exact percentage? A mystery. They've never disclosed it publicly, at least not that I've seen. Actually, let me correct that. I think, pulling from memory here, there might have been a mention somewhere, but I could be wrong. Feel free to fact check me on this one. You're absolutely right. At one point, Coinbase reportedly owned around 50% of the company's shares, though they didn't have managerial control. Eventually, Circle exercised its right to buy back most of that stake, leaving Coinbase as a minority shareholder. Though a stake is a stake, and it's not nothing. Speaking of Circle, let's talk competition. While they've made history as the first stablecoin issuer to go public, they're far from the biggest player. That crown belongs to Tether, the powerhouse behind the hugely popular USDT. And let's not forget Ripple, another heavyweight in the space, which recently threw its hat in the stablecoin ring with RLUSD. Let's see how this plays out, folks. The way things are shaping up, this could be a game changer for Ripple and ultimately for XRP and the XRP ledger. That's fantastic news for XRP holders, but here's the real question. What's the bigger acquisition here? Is it this potential move or Ripple's recent $1,250,000,000, 0 cents purchase of Hidden Road? You've probably heard of that one by now. Which deal carries more weight? Hard to say. It really depends on your perspective. Hidden Road positions XRP like no other cryptocurrency has ever been before. Seriously, we've never seen anything like this in history. Imagine trillions, yes, trillions of dollars in flows being moved through this broker, all funneled onto the XRP ledger. The potential interest this could generate for XRP in the ledger is mind-blowing, an unknowable but almost certainly massive amount. But then there's Ripple potentially taking control of the second largest stablecoin by market cap in 2025. How does that stack up? Which move will have the bigger impact? Honestly, I'd love to hear some expert insight on this because the possibilities here are staggering. When discussing something still in its early stages versus an established success, it's hard to predict the ultimate outcome. That's why I'm torn. A decade from now, could the Hidden Road deal actually outweigh the other? It's possible. Regardless, both moves are monumental and will play a huge role in securing XRP's long-term future. If you're investing now, especially with an eye on 2025, congratulations, you're ahead of nearly everyone on the planet. Seriously, almost everyone, and certainly ahead of the big money, which hasn't fully arrived yet. Cryptocurrency as a whole is still in its infancy. Imagine the growth a decade or two from now. It's like being part of the internet boom in the 90s early days, my friends. Early days. This really is an exciting moment for XRP in the crypto space, but let me be clear, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't buy or sell anything just because of what I say. That would be a terrible idea. Make your own decisions wisely.